Welcome the Shattered Trust Stories, where we explore the untold stories of relationships, heartbreaks, and the unexpected twists of life. The house was quiet when I got home that evening, eerily so. Usually, there'd be the hum of the TV, the soft laughter of my wife, or the distant sound of our son playing upstairs. But this time, silence filled the air, heavy and unnatural. I called out her name, my voice echoing through the stillness. No answer. I wandered into the kitchen, finding an empty wineglass on the counter and a faint scent of perfume lingering in the air. Something was wrong. My gut told me so. I reached for my phone and called her, but it went straight to voicemail. That wasn't unusual. She often left her phone in her bag, but combined with the quiet, it felt like a red flag. Our son, Jacob, was staying at a friend's house for the weekend, so the house should have been ours to enjoy. But it felt anything but welcoming. The doubts I'd been pushing aside for months began creeping in again. The late nights. The sudden gym membership. The unexplained text notifications she dismissed with a quick tap. I tried to shake it off. After all, we'd been married for over a decade. We had our son. We had history. People grow, change, evolve. But as I stood there in the dimly lit kitchen, staring at that empty wineglass, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it. I decided to wait. Hours passed. Midnight came and went, and still, no sign of her. Finally, just past 1 a.m., I heard the faint hum of a car engine outside. I peeked through the curtain and saw her stepping out of a car. But she wasn't alone. A man got out of the driver's seat, a man I didn't recognize. They stood close, their silhouettes illuminated by the street lamp. My heart raced as I watched them exchange a quick kiss before she whispered something, laughing softly. It felt like the air had been punched out of my lungs. She walked toward the house, her heels clicking softly on the pavement, completely unaware that I was standing just behind the door. I backed away into the shadows of the living room, not ready to confront her yet. When she entered, she dropped her bag by the door and slipped off her shoes, humming a tune I didn't recognize. "Late night?" I asked, stepping into view. She froze, her back to me. For a split second, I saw her shoulders tense before she turned around, a forced smile plastered on her face. "Oh, hey. Yeah, just out with some friends." "Friends," I repeated, letting the word hang in the air. Her eyes darted to the clock, to the door, then back to me. "Yeah, you know, the girls from work." I nodded slowly, my mind racing. "You've got lipstick smudged on your cheek," I said calmly. Her hand flew to her face, and her expression faltered for just a moment before she recovered. "Oh, must have been one of the girls," she said, laughing nervously. I didn't say anything. I just stared at her, letting the silence stretch between us. The cracks in her story were becoming glaringly obvious, but I wasn't ready to explode, not yet. If there was one thing I'd learned over the years, it was that patience was a weapon. Over the next few days, I started piecing things together. I checked our bank statements, noting charges at restaurants and hotels I didn't recognize. I installed a small camera in the living room, just to confirm my suspicions. It didn't take long. 3 days later, while I was at work, the camera caught her and the same man from that night sitting on our couch, laughing, holding hands, and eventually kissing. My stomach churned as I watched the footage, but I felt a strange sense of relief. I wasn't crazy. I could have confronted her then and there, but I wanted to do this right. I didn't just want the truth, I wanted justice. I met with a lawyer the next day. I told him everything, showed him the footage, the bank statements, and the timeline I'd painstakingly put together. He assured me that we'd build a strong case. The hardest part was keeping up appearances. I pretended everything was fine at home, all the while documenting every suspicious move she made. Jacob, thankfully, was too young to pick up on the tension. Finally, the day came when I was ready to put my plan into action. One evening, I told her we needed to talk. She looked nervous as we sat down in the living room, but she tried to play it cool. "What's this about?" she asked, crossing her arms defensively. "I know," I said simply. Her expression changed in an instant, confusion, panic, anger, all flashing across her face in rapid succession. "Know what?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. I pulled out my phone and played the footage. Her eyes widened as she watched herself with the other man. She tried to deny it at first, but the evidence was undeniable. When I told her I'd already filed for divorce and was seeking full custody of Jacob, she broke down, begging me to reconsider. But I didn't waver. In court, she tried to paint me as a controlling husband, but the evidence spoke for itself. The judge listened to Jacob's heartfelt testimony about our bond, about how I was always there for him while she was busy. In the end, the court ruled in my favor. I got full custody of Jacob, and she got exactly what she deserved. Now, it's just the two of us, rebuilding our lives together. The betrayal still stings, but every day with my son reminds me of what's truly important. Justice was served, and we're finally free to move forward. Life after the court ruling was a strange mix of relief and lingering pain. I had won custody of Jacob, and the divorce was finalized quickly thanks to the mountain of evidence I had presented. Still, starting over wasn't easy. Even though I had removed the toxic presence of my ex-wife from my life, the scars of her betrayal ran deep. For Jacob, I tried to keep things as normal as possible. We stayed in the same house, partly because I didn't want him to feel uprooted and partly because I wanted him to know this was still his home. But it wasn't easy. There were nights when I'd find him staring out of his bedroom window, his small face shadowed by thoughts too big for a 10-year-old to carry. "Do you miss her?" he asked me one night, his voice barely above a whisper. I hesitated before answering, not wanting to lie but also not wanting to burden him. "Sometimes, buddy. But some things are better this way. You and I, we're a team now." That seemed to comfort him, and over time, we settled into a rhythm. Meanwhile, my ex-wife tried to reach out a few times. At first, her messages were filled with anger, accusations that I had turned Jacob against her, claims that I was playing the victim. When those didn't work, she switched tactics, sending long, emotional texts about how much she missed us and how she had made a mistake. But I wasn't falling for it. I had given her more chances than she deserved during our marriage, and now my only focus was on Jacob's well-being. One day, months after the divorce was finalized, I got a call from her. Against my better judgment, I picked up. "What do you want?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "I want to see Jacob," she said, her tone desperate. "Please, just for a little while. I've changed. I'm better now." I took a deep breath, considering her words. I didn't want to deny Jacob a chance to have a relationship with his mother, but I also couldn't ignore the damage she had caused. "I'll think about it," I said, and hung up. That evening, I sat down with Jacob to talk about it. I didn't want to make the decision for him. "Your mom wants to see you," I said gently. "How do you feel about that?" He looked down at his plate, pushing his food around with his fork. "I don't know, Dad. She didn't care about me before. Why does she care now?" His words broke my heart, but I stayed calm. "It's okay to feel that way," I said. "You don't have to decide right now." Eventually, Jacob agreed to see her, but only under the condition that I'd be there, too. The first meeting was awkward, to say the least. She tried to hug him, but he pulled away, his small frame rigid with discomfort. Over time, they began to rebuild a fragile relationship. She never regained full custody or even regular visitation rights, but I allowed her supervised visits when Jacob expressed interest. I knew he needed to find his own path with her, and I was determined to support him no matter what. As for me, I focused on building a new life. I started therapy, which helped me process the anger and betrayal I had buried deep inside. I also joined a local single parents group, where I met people who understood my struggles and offered a sense of community. One person in particular stood out, a woman named Emily. She had 2 kids of her own and a warmth that drew people to her. We started as friends, meeting for coffee or bringing our kids together for playdates. But as time went on, our connection deepened. It wasn't easy to open my heart again after everything I'd been through, but Emily was patient and kind. She understood my fears because she had been through her own share of heartbreak. Jacob took to her quickly, and before long, we became a blended family. The house that once felt so empty now buzzed with laughter and life. Looking back, I realized that the hardest moments of my life had led me to this place, a place of love, resilience, and hope. My ex-wife's betrayal had shattered my world, but it had also forced me to rebuild it stronger than before. Now, when I look at Jacob and Emily and the life we've created together, I know one thing for certain: we are more than the pain we've endured. We are the choices we've made to rise above it.